Hey, Sullivan. Okay, I was gonna make a post. Hey, Lux. Hey, Sunbirds. Hey, Eric. Can you guys hear me? Am I too loud? I haven't streamed in so long. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Jade. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Solus. Hey, Vibin. M. Rivers? Rivers. Hi, Lord Spiky. Hi, Mika. Mika? Hello, everyone. I return. Zach, thank you for the follow. Oh, honey, thank you. Welcome. Hi, Joan. Hello, everyone. Okay, I should make a post on somewhere else, but I haven't really prepared 100% because I just got off work. And I don't have art because I'm on a new computer. And I don't really know what to use as my... I guess I'll use a recent work in progress. Let's do that, because that might be easier. How have you guys been? Hey, Galax. Hey, Kaleri. Hey, Ninja. Hey, Fourth. I've missed you guys, too. I missed you guys a lot. It's been a really hectic couple of months since I took my hiatus, and... It hasn't been the most healthy, and it hasn't been the easiest thing, but I took a little bit of time afterwards to kind of come back to normal, and that's kind of why, even though I said like late April I'd be back, I really wasn't ready late April to kind of be doing stuff, which is really unfortunate because I really wanted to start streaming again earlier. But it just wasn't a very, it just wasn't a very good time, because for anyone who hasn't really been, around, I uploaded or released a class, on Class 101, which is a website educational platform, and to get that class done, which finished up production in June, I think, I was working my day job, my professional freelance jobs, and also making, scripting, recording, writing, filming videos. And so that took a lot more time than I thought it was going to. And even after all of the content has been released, I'm still catching up on doing subtitling and all that other stuff. And so there's a lot of things that have been kind of falling, and I've been trying to pick things back up, and streaming was something that I really wanted to come back to at some point. And I'm really grateful for everyone who's been really, really patient, and has been sticking around and waiting for me to basically get my shit back together. I am still trying to do all that, and I am, you know, hopefully going to build up this whole thing back again. I've done a lot of growing up since we last talked. A lot of new things have kind of been popping up in my life, and I think I've changed a little bit as a person as well. But regardless, the streams will still be the same. It'll still be a place where you can come and hang out and watch me draw and do a bunch of stuff. It'll also be a time where we will still be doing charities, and all sorts of things every year, and also I will still be offering advice. You can always ask me questions, we can just talk and chat and all that stuff. So yeah, And there was that whole cat thing not being well, yes. So, my cat, Peach, I got her earlier this year. She has been really healthy, actually. So, things are looking up after a couple months of kind of being touch and go. So, yes, that is kind of where we're at right now in this instance. I'm still trying to figure out what to make my screen for the stream itself. I might use this one. But yes, so here's to hoping that I can maintain some form of a decent schedule, because now, in ways I am more free than I used to be, and in ways I'm not more free than I used to be. I now work, or have been working for a little bit, at a full-time position. And there are some days where I leave work exactly at the right time, and sometimes where I don't leave work at all. So I'm hoping that with some level of forethought, I can carve out some more time to be streaming, because I do want to stream in shorter intervals but more frequently, if that makes any sense. But I have no idea when that will happen. I have no idea when I can make up days for that to happen, but that is my current thought. I'd much rather stream more often, but maybe for shorter periods of time, or even start doing streams where I'm not talking, but I can just be working and focusing on my own thing. So who knows? Who really knows? Okay, I'm gonna send this out, and you guys can just look at this piece of art for a while until I'm ready to do things. Thank you for the tier 1 subs. You guys are so sweet. So very sweet. Okay. I missed you guys as well. Okay, I'm gonna post this somewhere. If you can see, my style has changed just a little bit, and not in the way that I've made huge stylistic leaps. I've just changed a little bit of what I like in art since we've last talked. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to power through all the commissions that I have left, and I don't know, get back into doing some more personal work. Back here. Also just make sure no one from work messages me, because that would be a disaster. Your drawing icon has a 5 head? Oh. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Oh god, there's so many subs. I think Esura, thank you for the sub. The returning sub? Yes, the returning sub. Axelone, thank you for the returning sub. Neil, thank you for the sub. Eric, thank you for the sub. For the prime? The prime, thank you. Solus, Void. Rike, thank you for the gift sub. And also, Void as well. Steven, thank you. SubBurns, thank you. You guys. Oh, there's so many messages. Hi guys. Yes, if I don't answer you guys' questions, please ask them again. I will not, unless you spam them, I will not be against revisiting topics, especially if you need clarification and stuff like that. I would be very, very sad if you asked a question I never got to answer it. So yes, but it's a little hectic right now because I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff. So if I miss it, I apologize. It's always Instagram that takes the longest, and then Twitter is just like post, quick screenshot, and then we're good. Okay, so close, so close. How have you guys been? What's changed in your lives since I've last talked to you? I would love to know. You've graduated. I know you did that. Yeah. Yes, up close and personal. Got a big boy job, moved cities, got a freelance gig on the side. Congratulations! I'm proud of you. Going back to school for last semester come this fall. I wish you the best of luck. Finished college? Congratulations! Are you still working on the Dota team? I never did work on the Dota team. The contract I had was just for that illustration. For those set of illustrations. So I did not work officially on their development team at all, which is why you don't see me posting about anything Valve related or Dota 2 related. I was just a contractor for that period of time. Pursuing art full time now, left my day job and now I'm scared. Well, you're not alone. And if you ever need help, there's plenty of people out there, including me, that would be happy to offer you a hand. But I am very proud of you for making the jump, for making the leap, for making the decision. Oh yeah, so this was going to be the drawing I originally did, and then I never finished it before my lunch break ended. Can you give advice on how to have the... Oh, okay, to draw without worrying about making mistakes. So, let me get... What size is this? 11 by 17 inches? Okay. Let me get set up real quick and then I'll answer. But also, on top of that, Gary, are you there?
Oh, yeah, hello.
So, oh
my god.
So, my lovely partner Gary is also here. He's here to give me emotional support, basically, for my first time streaming in a long time. And he's not obligated to do or say anything, but I dragged him in here so he can keep me company. What game are you playing? Just so people know.
I'm playing Metroid Fusion right now.
Yes, so he's playing his game, and he's gonna have fun. Possibly have an outburst if he gets lost. So just in case you don't know what he's doing, he's playing that game. I'm very, very happy to be back. But to answer the questions, Keith, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 9 months. Also, if you haven't noticed, all subs have a new little icon. We have little cats now. So if you are a sub, you get these little cute pixel art cat badges, and I purchased these from a shop called Butterberry, I think. It is a really cute pixel shop where they sell like pre-made badges, icons, and pixel art stuff. And it's very cute if you're ever considering getting emotes or badges done that are pixel art related and are very pretty and aesthetic and just all around really beautifully made. I really recommend purchasing from their shop that I linked in the description below. So I got the cat ones. I think the cat ones are super, super cute. And also, if you get to about a year or two, in terms of how long you've been subbed, you will also start getting a different type of badge. Tojo might actually might be the only one with the badge. Yeah, so if you like cats and you are a sub, congratulations, you now have little kitties. Oh, you didn't? The link doesn't work? Okay, hold on. Let me fix that real quick. Oh, why did you pause? I didn't want Spotify to pause. Let me fix that.
I had to check out my pizza, sorry. I'm back.
What pizza did you get?
I got a Cubano pizza. It has pickles on it, and I'm kind of worried about that part.
It's probably not gonna be good for you, huh?
Yeah.
I think you have to go to the little cog wheel, right? On let me fix that link first because I absolutely need people to be able to go to that link. I have missed streaming. I've missed streaming quite a bit, but it just wasn't realistic for me to be streaming at the same time as everything else was happening. But I'm back, hopefully, to stream a little bit more often. Okay, wait. There was a question way back when, and I wanted to answer it. Oh, I've been raided. When did I... Thank you for the raid. Thank you, thank you. Oh, Gary, someone asked, what are your thoughts on Metroid Dread?
Oh, I was typing it. I'm really excited. I actually can't wait for that game.
There we go.
No.
Someone asked... how to draw without worrying about making mistakes. It is not easy to do that when you have a bunch of these other pressures, I guess, that force you to think you have to perform or have to be perfect. Often we put those pressures on ourselves, and it really has to kind of be something you have to come to terms with, I guess. It's hard to say, mainly because there's no way that a stranger like me is going to convince you to just not be stressed about that kind of stuff. I'm still stressed about that kind of stuff. I still often feel a sense of pressure to not make a bad drawing, which is kind of... It's a weird preoccupation that a lot of us learn. The only thing I can really say is that as soon as you start making art that is explicitly not for other people to see, as soon as you start recognizing that making mistakes doesn't necessarily mean you've done something horrible, that you should be ashamed of yourself, that you've failed, as long as you realize that's not the case, actually, and that mistakes are merely just sort of the way that things are meant to go. You're meant to not understand, and being able to make mistakes shows you what it is that you have left to really fully learn and fully understand. And it's actually really helpful to make mistakes, because by doing so, you can basically see physically all of your current knowledge, your current, I guess, tools that you're working with, and you can decide for yourself, how do you want to move forward from here? Because otherwise, if you're always just constantly afraid to you know, draw, to just kind of go for it, to bite the bullet, you don't really ever get to know for yourself what you should really be working on, what you are actually struggling with, because in your head it's just like, oh, well, everything, I'm just not good at anything, and then it feeds back into that fear. So, you know, as someone who's just a random stranger on the internet, the only thing I can really tell you when it comes to getting the courage to just kind of go for it, to not be afraid about making mistakes with your art, it's that making mistakes with art is not nearly as serious as it might seem. And in fact, I think it's the core of what it means to be improving and studying, and it's the core of the process of making art, is that you don't really ever know the real true answer whenever you're working, and making mistakes is just a way for you to find out what that answer is, find out the solutions to your problems. And so in a way, you should be embracing any opportunity you have to figure out what those mistakes look like, and be willing to open your heart to the idea that failure is not as inherently shameful as maybe we make it out to be in our heads. It's actually quite enlightening. It shows us quite a lot about ourselves, about where we're at, about what we're currently capable of. And it's not something that's easy to learn. It's not something that's easy to accept, because we usually assume that when you make a mistake, it's a bad thing. But I've kind of learned recently, and by recently I mean within only like the last couple months or so, that there really isn't a reason to be as scared or as frustrated with that as I've been most of my life. And so the transition to being able to make mistakes and be just so much more forgiving of myself of that required me to just realize how much I can learn just from making a couple of mistakes versus how much I don't learn by trying and being too scared to try. So that's a long-winded way of saying it really kind of depends on how you approach it. It really depends on how you frame failure in your head. But anyways. Sixteen-year-old artists interested in the game industry, how are you able to balance time for other hobbies as well as getting better at art during high school teen years? Time management is a pretty serious thing. It is not easy, especially if you get yourself involved with a bunch of other stuff. And as a high schooler, I did not do much of anything else except go to school, draw, and then that's it. So I had a very straightforward, I guess, time in school. And so if you are filling your time with a bunch of other hobbies, you know, it really has to depend on what your priorities are. If you're really serious about getting a job in a specific industry and that requires a certain skill set, then I would recommend you think about what it is that you know, you have a certain set of hobbies maybe that really add to your life, that really make you enjoy your day-to-day. And then you have a set of hobbies that you do that you find fun, but it's okay if you take a break from them for a while. And I would suggest taking a look at the hobbies that you could possibly put down for a little bit at least, until you can, you know, really feel like you've put in some work into the other hobbies for job-related stuff. Why is my music stopping? Who's stopping my music? Gary, are you stopping my music? He won't respond. It's okay. Oh. In a way, Gary is, because Discord's doing it. I'd say, you know, just taking the time to evaluate what your priorities are, how you're going to balance all those things, is a decision you have to come to on your own. I'd say you don't really necessarily have to give up everything just to put in some good work and hours into, I guess, like future development, career development. But it does take some time and dedication to really internalize the lessons that you're, I guess, like, trying to... what was I gonna say? Sorry, I'm really distracted because I'm like, what am I drawing, and also, what am I saying? It takes time to really internalize lessons you really should learn before you can consider yourself prepared for industry jobs. High school's a tough time because they really fill you up with things during the day, and then at night, you know, you have homework, you have a bunch of extracurriculars you might be doing, and the college is pretty similar. They really just bog you down with so many assignments, so many things, that you really don't have time for a lot of other stuff. But I really recommend to anyone, if you're interested in working in the future at an industry job, to really sit down and just consider, like, what are your current skill sets, what are skill sets that you need to learn ahead of time to make yourself, you know, suited and a potential candidate for job positions that you want. And then plan around what your day-to-day might be so that you have an equal amount of stuff outside of art, outside of work, outside of school, that add to your life, that keep you interested, that keep you healthy. But then also, you know, what do you give up so that you can spend some good, solid hours every week, every day, potentially every couple weeks, to just be developing your skills. Especially if you're not someone who can focus on art full-time, but you still want a job in the future for that kind of stuff, because it does take a little bit of forward thinking, forward planning, of considering what skills you're missing. That kind of stuff does take a little bit of introspection. Have you ever messed with Procreate and have any opinions on it? Been thinking of trying out a screen tablet, but it's a heavy investment. Yeah, so I have actually been using my iPad a lot. I recently got really deep into using my iPad because I've been sitting at my desk for so long every day that I ended up really wanting to try out like iPad, Procreate, everything like that. So it turns out I actually really hate using Procreate, and I'm trying to figure out why that is. But so far, my my consensus is that I don't like how Procreate feels, and at that point I was like, oh god, did I just get an iPad just to not enjoy drawing on my iPad? But then I started branching out into other stuff. I got Clip Studio Paint for iPad, and that was actually not that bad for a little while. I do have Clip Studio Paint on my desktop, so I was familiar with using the program prior to getting it on my iPad. But even then, it was okay. Like, I could draw on it, but my pen felt relatively unsteady, and I was still kind of struggling with it. So that was kind of a better but okay venture. And then the real magic happened. I found Medibang Paint, and it's, I think, a free app on iPad. And oh my god, guys, I actually had so much fun drawing on my iPad after I got into Medibang. For some reason, the way that that program draws on the iPad is just like so much more comfortable for me, and comfort and tactile like experience is something that does really affect how I draw in my style even. And so it really felt like a huge difference when I got into that program, and it just worked really well for me. So I now exclusively use Medibang Paint, and I've been really enjoying it. I mainly just sketch is the big thing. I don't finish things on my iPad, I finish things on Photoshop. But if you're just looking for like a nice program to sketch in, Medibang has my like full support. I really enjoy that program. But otherwise, you know, I'd say having a computer is a good investment regardless, but obviously things have changed quite a bit since Procreate hit the scene and a bunch of people are just starting to use iPads. I still think being able to use a tablet and computer is good, especially if you want to work in a in-house position or anything like that. Having a computer really does prepare you for when you have to transition into heavier programs or have to do a great load of work. But as a hobbyist or as a student, you might not have the funds to do that, in which case investing in something like an iPad is not a terrible idea. I personally still prefer a computer and a tablet much more than an iPad tablet, but you know, depending on your financial situation, that could very well be a much cheaper, more affordable option for you, because you only really have to buy the iPad and then the pencil and then, you know, the dollars worth of whatever program you want, as opposed to a tablet being at least, you know, $400 to $2,000, and then a computer being, you know, $1,000 at least. So I think it's a pretty good alternative if you're a student or if you don't have the funds to really get into actually owning a computer and all that stuff. But you will probably be using a computer if you get into, you know, any professional space, or even schools, I think, often require you to at least have a laptop, but they have computers at school, so, you know. Jimbo, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 12 months. Have I been in any other projects since Class 101? So no, Class 101 has basically kind of taken over my life, and I'm still working on stuff for that. I'm still doing subtitling. I got a couple of friends to help me with that, Tojo being one of them. Thank you so much, Tojo. But I'm still kind of working on Class 101 stuff, and something I need to really get back into is giving feedback. So I'm still very much in the Class 101 trenches, and very little time for other stuff because I do work full-time at a studio. So all those things kind of mixed together. I only really have a couple hours every day to do other stuff, in which case I've just been working on personal art, which has actually been a really nice change. That's been happening only within the last couple weeks. Before then, pretty much there was not a ton of time for anything else. I have a better chair now. Yes, I do. I have a Herman Miller that was refurbished, and I love it a lot. It doesn't squeak nearly as much as my old chair did, so I don't give Gary heart attacks anymore. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff. It's been good. Quality of life improvements. Marv, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Blah blah blah. I saw this article saying that you don't need art schools specifically because schools don't understand the constantly changing industry. I know you didn't finish art school, but how do you feel about that critique of art school specifically? So there are a couple of things I think that art school doesn't really teach you, and Gary can kind of talk about this as well. I think he's had some thoughts about this, although I don't know if he wants to talk about them. But huh?
I left the call, accidentally hit the wrong button.
Oh, how dare you.
Yeah, art school sucks.
Okay, well, so there's his opinion. But what would your opinion be on art school specifically not being necessary because the industry is constantly changing and so it becomes outdated?
That's like a very apt observation, I think. And I don't actually mean art school sucks. It's just hyperbole. But I think the observation is good because like when teachers go into full-time teaching, they have to stop. Most of them stop like having a day job, and it's very apparent that their methods and I don't know, just general thoughts on the industry like get really outdated.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to me to a huge degree when I was in school. So I guess it depends on the kind of environment you're in the school. If your instructors and people who are like mentor figures are open to, you know, learning from you guys as well, because it's teaching, I think, should really be like a two-way street. Then hopefully it'll work out and they'll be able to like adapt, you know?
Yeah.
Or at least in the base, most boiled down form, that they are open to realizing that their methods are outdated, you know, because sometimes some people can get a little uppity about that.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say I'd agree with that. I think it's a very nuanced take about art schools, is that not so much that like, oh, you don't need art school just because it's an institution, but more so that art school does have a couple of stipulations with it. And one of them is that in order to have the time to teach, a lot of these teachers who maybe were professionals or are still professionals, they start having a different focus about what part of their industry or their specific field of expertise, like their vision of what it is, can become outdated if they almost exclusively teach. A lot of schools now, especially ones with more recent, like, I guess, new age majors like game art and concept, their teachers tend to be still relatively, like, they seem to still usually be active to some extent. Not always, but that's why you see a lot of online schools like Brainstorm, Inland, and Schoolism getting teachers who still work in the industry doing like master classes, because while they might not have time to teach a full course, they might have time to teach a master class for a week. And so what does that say for art schools? I'd say it really does depend on a bunch of other factors. Art school, yes, you run the risk of going to or having a cast of teachers that maybe are slightly outdated, but it doesn't mean that the core of what they teach is necessarily all going to be that different, because at a baseline, art has been a similar beast to tackle for thousands of years. And so there are some things that you can learn in school that you might not have been able to learn on your own, and on top of that, you know, you still have the culture of meeting people of a similar mindset, your peers, your class, your students, and teachers also being able to help you with their kind of history and expertise and their connections and their friends and all that stuff. So I'd say weigh the pros and cons of art school for yourself. I'd say despite, you know, all of the other minor issues I've had with art school, I really did genuinely enjoy my time there. And I don't regret going to art school at all, as much as you might hear other people say it was the worst time of their life. I think I did a lot of growing up at art school, and that's why, even though I did leave early, I still felt like it was not a poor choice or a poor decision. The fact that I left, I think, was just a matter of kind of like a new form of considering of framing art school for me. It took a lot of people telling me to leave, Gary being one of them, and I think I left at a good time, because it was getting to a point where I felt like I wasn't getting anything else out of my education, and I felt like I'd met all the teachers I really wanted to meet, and I had a good experience, but it was starting to interfere with working the job that the school was trying to prepare me for. So that's why I left, and that's why I don't feel bad about leaving, but also why I don't feel like art school was a waste of my time. If that makes any sense.
art school is very awesome, and sorry I'm chewing, but it's all over the fact that it's good to know the kind of artist that you are and how you like to learn, because I'm the kind of person who I think needed an art school. I need like the structure and the assignments and the friends and stuff. That's a big important part to me. So this is all on top of the, you know, once you have quote unquote found yourself as an artist and as somebody who wants to learn.
Yes. Danger, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub for 2 months. I am back, Trinity. Hey, Kuya. Yes, regular schedule for these charity. Yes, I'm hoping so. How do you manage shoulder or arm pain from drawing? If you have shoulder or arm pain, you're either drawing for too long without moving around, or something about your setup is causing some form of like constriction or compression. So I'd say evaluate how you draw. I tend to draw with my tablet on my lap because that allows my arms to kind of fall straight, and then my elbow is at like a 90 degree. This allows me to keep my wrist straight, which is the most important thing, because if your wrist is constantly bent, that can usually cause a lot of wrist pain in particular. I do get elbow pain, but I tend to straighten out my elbow quite a bit just to offset it. If your tablet is too high on the table, you might feel a little bit more elbow pain. If you are constantly hunching your shoulders over, that will cause shoulder pain. Or if you're, you know, either really tense, or perhaps you have snapping scapula like I do, all of those things can increase the factors for how much pain you feel and how often, and what would cause a flare-up of pain. So I'd say evaluate how you draw, what position you draw in, what posture you typically take on, and try to look into like ergonomic stuff. So if you draw on a screen tablet especially, you should be looking into ways that you can like prop up your screen, potentially have stands for them, or even just trying to draw at a better angle. Always have try to maintain some form of a relaxed but straightened posture when you're drawing, especially if you're sitting in a chair, and try to find ways to keep your neck straight, your wrist straight, and potentially your arms a lot looser, your shoulders relaxed, all that kind of stuff. Takes quite a bit of refinement, and I do not pretend that I've figured it out. But at the very least, my wrist does not hurt nearly as much as it used to. And my elbow pain's relatively rare. Back pain I can't really help because my snapping scapula stuff just flares up whenever it wants to. But yes, still working on shoulders and neck though. During your first or second year of college, did you have to take basic courses like math or science, or no? Gen Ed stuff, to some extent, I think art colleges try to come up with weird versions of those classes to make them relevant to the course, which is why sometimes it can be a pain to get those college credits transferred over if you're transferring from a different college. But to a certain degree, yes, there are those types of classes. But, like, for example, my math class at LCAD I took when I was kind of, like, in between a junior and sophomore. Not a sophomore and junior year, basically. And it was less about mathematics and more about, like, chaos theory. Mainly because I had a really interesting teacher and I really liked him. But, yeah, so some schools will have pretty straightforward classes, some schools will not. And it really depends on the type of school. But you will take some form of a, like, first, second year kind of gen ed requirements. Those will happen. Oh yeah, those pop-ups are on a rotation. I'm just gonna leave them the way that they are. The Discord? The sketch itself that you posted is digital. I did that in Procreate. Best practice, hatch and shade. So you kind of have to understand what hatching and shading is trying to accomplish. It's essentially attempting to create 3D form through the thickness, variation, angle, and overlap of lines. And so I did pretty minimal hatching. And the intent of the hatching that I did do was to show some form of 3D form and also a form of lighting. And those were my two goals. And so how did I accomplish that? I went for a form of hatching that is all about contour. So when you look at it, it's not 100% accurate, but the way that the lines are flowing is trying to convey the direction of the fabric, and it's all going in kind of like a circular diagonal fashion, so it increases the way that the piece's rhythm is moving. It adds to the flow because they're all kind of pointing towards like the bottom left or the top right in that diagonal, and I increase them when it gets to a darker, more shadowy point on the figure, and in cases of total darkness I'll even add more of a darker shadow by putting the lines closer together and making them thicker. Instances of like cloth overlap and stuff like that will also get like a pit shadow, and that's just the way that I accomplished that specific that specific form of hatching. There are a ton of different styles of hatching, and you can find a lot of them in like lithograph type painting, or not paintings, lithograph pieces. A lot of golden age 1900s, golden age illustrator, pen and ink sketches, or pen and ink sketches from any time in history, really. People have a lot of different ways of hatching. They cross hatch, which means the lines cross. They do contour hatching, which is when they follow the 3D forms, 3D contour forms, or, you know, just all over the place. And you basically just pick the form of hatching that best suits the type of feeling you're looking for. And I don't do hatching necessarily in a authentic way. It's just kind of meant to accomplish a certain task, which is adding depth to something without requiring me to shade anything. But that's kind of the basics of what I'm thinking when, or how I hatch, I guess, in a way. Do you ever just sketch sloppily? Yeah, I do. I try not to do it for these, though, because, you know, trying to make it look nice for people. But yes, I do. Luila, thank you for the Prime, the Twitch Prime sub? I think that's what they're still called. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it, Silver Soul. Thank you very much. Do you have any tips on how to explore, on what to explore when ideating for character costume design sketches? So as I kind of talk about, if you ever take the class, the most important thing about a character is that you're trying to convey some, I guess, greater message about where they're from, what their job or story role archetype is, and also a little bit of their backstory or personality. And so when you're ideating for costume design ideas for a character, figuring out all the different ways that you can convey a very specific message in the form of a costume ensemble should be your primary goal. That could be, I want, you know, it could be like, I want to show that they're from a very specific region with a very specific climate. If they're from a pretty cold, snowy, storm-prone region, then you probably will have a lot of heat retention materials, and thicker fabrics, things that would be available to them in that environment. If they are a character that is extremely opulent, extremely extravagant, they're going to be wearing a lot more things that are meant to be aesthetically pleasing as opposed to completely utilitarian. If their personality type is that they're extremely closed off and off-put by social interaction, they might wear more clothes that would basically inhibit you from really, like, maybe they might wear like a big hoodie or something like that. It basically hides them from being perceived or being seen, and that helps them feel safer, perhaps. Makes them feel a little bit more invisible. Stuff like that. Anything where you can really explore showcasing these little untold aspects of their character design, that you don't need to communicate in a wall of text, but you just need to show them acting the way that they would, wearing the things that they would actually pick for themselves. That's what I think makes a faithful character design, and that's kind of how you can start thinking about all the different options for how to convey that. Because there are a ton of different ways for someone, even just you and me, to dress with a limited closet, and how does your character innovate with that? How can they not innovate with that? You know, all of these things are story elements that you can imbue into your designs. And as I mentioned in the class, when you're ideating, it's all about trying to put out all of those combinations on paper. Just trying to make them known, putting them out there physically helps you recognize what are interesting design elements, but also storytelling elements, what are interesting world-building hints and clues, while also being visually striking and interesting for a character. And depending on the importance of a character, having a striking and compelling character design might be more important for someone in a more serious position, like a hero or major supporting character, as opposed to an NPC type character where they're just kind of meant to fade into the background, in which case you might put less work into their costume to add to their more common mundane aspects. All of that stuff, all of those things you can think about when you're just trying to come up with different options in the ideation iteration process. Have you ever dealt with clients that thought they were doing you a favor? I tend to not take those clients if I can get the sense that they thought they were doing me a favor. Any tips to train line weight? Line weight. So, the thing about line weight is that once you've kind of started to recognize your kind of go-to styles of modulating lines, then you kind of don't realize you're doing it while you're drawing. I'd say if you're trying to practice line weights, it's good to establish to yourself what kind of line weight you like, because there are different styles of it. And it's not like a school of thought or whatever, it's just different ways that people justify lining or like creating certain line weights for certain reasons. Generally, line weight is a product of different factors that include depth, lighting, form, contrast, all that stuff. And people pick line weights depending on what they want to emphasize. So if you're drawing something with a lot of depth, you might use less or lighter line weights for objects that are further back in space than objects that are further or closer in space, so that you can really delineate that depth without needing to resort to other forms of indicating depth. If you're doing something that has light and shadow, you might draw a line darker when the plane in question is in shadow. So I might draw the underside of this arm darker or thicker because it's presumably, if I were to assume that the light is coming from this direction, it's presumably turning away from the light, and so therefore would be in shadow if this was, you know, shaded, which it won't be. And so I could operate with that. Or, as I typically do, I just make it up. Because my line weights are almost predominantly decided by where does the line start and end, and what looks good in that context. I have a pretty unrestricted, unregulated process for deciding line weights, and I will redraw a line if I feel like the weight is not appropriate for that shape or object. And I follow some small rules that's like things further back in space usually tend to be drawn with lighter lines, and things in shadow I will occasionally put as thicker lines, but not all the time, because I often am not dealing with those types of drawings. But it's good to isolate for yourself what kind of line weight style you'd want to emulate, and a way to figure that out is to do master copies of your favorite like line artists, and figure out, you know, what is their philosophy for coming up with, you know, what looks good, what doesn't. And then you'll figure out for yourself, like, oh, if I like this artist, maybe I share some of their tastes and stuff. And then you can start deciding for yourself, okay, what do I do that doesn't really match up with what I like about their work, and then figure out, okay, what decisions do I have to start actively making in my head while I'm drawing and line arting stuff that would help me achieve that same feeling or quality or whatever, and then start committing those decisions to your work as you are, you know, improving and studying and doing all that. That's kind of the only real concrete way I can imagine practicing line weight, because otherwise, I can only really say that what I do is a product of drawing for a really long time. And at this point, I don't really make really solid decisions about what my line work looks like. Ugh. Are my alerts no longer playing the Karak noise? Perhaps, maybe because I'm on a new computer. Tips for studying anatomy. Hold on, I need to draw the other guy. There's another man in this couple that I have not yet drawn. Tips for studying anatomy. Well, so with anatomy, you kind of have to be self-aware about what it is that you are currently struggling with, because anatomy is pretty dense as a topic, and to kind of just go for it at, you know, whatever materials you have available is a little counterproductive, because you might just end up getting really overwhelmed by the amount of stuff in anatomy. I mean, like, people devote like their careers to becoming anatomy teachers. There's plenty about the human body, specifically just within the muscle structures, that you can spend like semesters on. And so for me, I operate with a very kind of basic and rudimentary knowledge of anatomy that really only is applicable to you know, stuff that you would normally have to draw at some point. And that's the kind of stuff that I try to learn and keep in my mind. So I do have like a section on anatomy in my Class 101 thing, but just to summarize, because there's a lot just that you should know at a baseline. When you're approaching anatomy, you should try to learn anything that's kind of surface level. So the big major parts of the body, like the chest, abs, basic shoulder muscles like your deltoid, bicep, tricep. Lower arm gets a little complicated. Legs and thighs all have surface level anatomy that you'll see if you are studying a like super muscular model. And then looking at your own art and seeing what is it that you are trying to accomplish by learning anatomy, right? Because sometimes it's just a matter of learning proportions that is really the issue with your work at the moment. Sometimes not having a defined muscle structure is actually hurting your work more than anything. So then it goes into how do you specialize what you're learning. I'd say, you know, being able to memorize names and functions of muscles has always really helped me. Might not help you, but I think it's really important. And being able to, you know, call out muscles when you see them helps you recognize when you know, failed to account for a certain form or silhouette change when drawing the human body. And you can be like, oh, okay, yeah, I just forgot to include you know, the tibialis anterior or something like that. And then you can go in, look at reference, and be like, yeah, I know exactly what that muscle does, what it is. And it makes it easier for you to then critique your own work. So, you know, it's hard to really know what kind of materials are really helpful when it comes to anatomy. I didn't use books or anything necessarily. I had someone who was willing to basically walk through the necessary muscles in the body with me. But I think there are plenty of courses like Proco and a bunch of other artists online, Drosh being one of them, that does pretty like understandable, digestible materials on anatomy that you can look through, that are constantly available, that are mostly free, and start from there. Start from learning what is, or what are all the moving basic building blocks of anatomy, including the bone structure, muscle structure, names and function and form and what they look like from different angles, and then start applying that to your own work, is how I would, I guess, suggest doing it. It's not how I did it. I just brute forced most of my, not learning anatomy, but kind of the understanding of it. I'm still learning to understand most of it. But anatomy will be a lifelong thing that you will eventually understand better, retain better, demonstrate better. So Godspeed, regardless. Let's see. How long does it take you to paint a character design? Depends on the fidelity of it, I guess. I don't know. Painting often takes a while. If I'm painting like super clean, it might take me like upwards of 14 to 20 hours. If I'm kind of just getting through all the pieces, it could take me like 6 hours-ish. I don't know. I haven't painted in a while, which is why a lot of my recent stuff that I've been doing has been painting related. But to be honest, it takes me, I think, a lot longer than it should. Jurassic Pencil, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Is it really quiet? Okay. You draw in your sketchbook more often than digitally drawing when you're practicing hands or poses. I have not drawn in my sketchbook in a really long time, which sucks a lot. And I'd like to change that, but I don't know. I've just been, a lot of stuff that I want to do currently are all digital related, like painting and all that stuff. So digital for now seems to be the way that my brain wants to play. Like, that's the sandbox my brain wants to play in. But maybe eventually someday soon I will get back to drawing traditionally, because I do really miss it. I really do. I don't know. Not really feeling it right now. What are you thinking when drawing hair? How much I get lost in the sauce and then actually ultimately end up drawing nothing in particular. Hair is all about thinking, where are you placing the hairline? Where is everything sprouting from? And once you have that, it really doesn't matter. The big things you have to consider are, where's the hairline? where's the scalp, like the skull of the head, and then making sure that you're not drawing the hair like 15 feet above the scalp, and you're not just drawing hair kind of like growing out of not the scalp. And then once you have that down, it's all about just creating and maintaining a sense of structure and flow. Typically with stylized stuff, you'll group hair into well, groups, and allow those shapes to make, you know, a larger silhouette than what would be like strands of individual pieces of hair. And that kind of allows you to create a structure for which you can kind of use to create more silhouettes and add to the flow of a piece. So those are the things that I'm thinking about when I'm drawing hair. One, how much I suck at not losing a sense of direction when I'm drawing hair, and then two, everything else. I'm trying not to think about Fure. Presumably if I get through 8 of them per stream, I'll finish in like 12 stream days. But who knows? Who knows? William, thank you for the 16 months on Twitch Prime sub. How to make or find the best brush. You really just kind of have to try everything. Certain brushes are more comfortable than others. I prefer brushes with a little bit of opacity and a little bit of texture. And that's something you have to decide for yourself. I have been a prolific brush hoarder and brush purchaser for years, which is why I have so many brushes in my brush thing that I don't even use, because I'm always purchasing new packs and like trying them out and like figuring out what, oh, can I use this? Do I like using it? And that's kind of how I've found like a group of brushes that I really enjoy using. But that's taken me years to figure out for myself and figure out what I find most comfortable. Would you like to work on riot splashes? It's okay. If you're sent back in time, a darker part of history is gone, what time period would you pick? I don't know, man. I really like living in the modern era. Things are like really nice here. Not totally great, but significantly better. Like running water, access to the internet, basic amenities, like I don't know. If I had to live in a time period where I didn't have access to like ice, like ice cubes, especially more recently, I've discovered I have an addiction to eating ice cubes straight out of the ice pack. Especially because my roommate got these super tiny ice cube trays, and they make these little cubes that are the size of your fingernail, and I love crunching on them so much. Like, they're just like a snack in the morning. I can't wait to get up because then I could go crunch on some ice. Like, it's that kind of stuff where I'm like, I don't think I could live in any other time period than right now, where I can make little tiny cubes of ice in my refrigerator, or my freezer rather. So I think I'm okay. Like, I know this is not like the most exciting answer, but I really don't think I as a person am really going to do well being dropped into a different era of time. I am very much a weak child, so I'm good. I really am. Okay. Tojo, I'm gonna need you to calm it down there, okay? I'm getting warmed up. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm getting warmed up. It's alright. It's alright. It's okay if I've spent like an hour on this one. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Gonna need you to chill it, okay? I get reference for characters from... My preference is from mundane objects that have nothing to do with the actual thing I'm trying to draw. So if I'm drawing something fantasy related, I like looking at like insects, avant-garde fashion, historical pieces like classical extant garments or actual armor plate and stuff like that, architecture, like other things that are not related to the thing I'm trying to draw is what I prefer to use as reference, especially for things like fantasy. I think fantasy as a genre has been, you know, it has an identity that I think it should have outgrown at this point. And I think the reason why it has such a strong attachment to classic, like, medieval European stuff is because, well, it's just kind of like an incestuous sort of pool of reference. People use their favorite series, fantasy series, like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and a bunch of other stuff, and they use that as the only form of fantasy they really like. And because they will then make content with that same design philosophy, they don't really expand the framework for what fantasy can encapsulate. And so what we end up with is a ton of people defaulting to a specific form of fantasy because we just assume that that's the easiest version of it that we can recognizably make. People want to make things that are relatively recognizable, but it doesn't really help when you're trying to come up with new ideas and there's just not really a space for people to automatically latch on to that kind of stuff. So I'd say, especially if you're doing stuff like fantasy, I would encourage all of you guys to not do anything like, it can be related, but trying to push past what we've already established as like the culture of fantasy and the kind of sort of, I guess, like status quo of fantasy races, of visual languages for fantasy, the racial stereotypes of fantasy, like elves are beautiful, dwarves are ugly, orcs are ugly, you know, like all that kind of stuff. It's like orcs, goblins, elves, dwarves, humans, high humans, the classic races, like classes, I guess, like wizards being people with pointy hats, witches being people with pointy hats, knights and paladins only ever wearing like very, very rudimentary, garbled, like plates of armor from England and not from any other, even European region. You know, it's like, it's a very muddy soup that we've created for fantasy, and that's kind of why when people ask me, you know, what kind of reference do you use, I always try to go first to things that are not related to the thing I'm trying to do. If I'm given a fantasy assignment, I try to look at cultures first. I try to look at interesting shapes and patterns first. I try to get a read on what is it that this specific character design is trying to accomplish, and how can it accomplish it in a different way. That's, I think, a much more interesting way to approach something with so much history and so much defined about it that it almost becomes strange to innovate for fantasy. But anyways, regardless, I have a whole Pinterest library dedicated to interesting reference material, and I go to that first. That's pretty much it. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Lemon. Oh, hi Jeremy. how goes it? And now I am caught up with the chat, thank God. Well, here's the thing, right? Like, just sticking another culture and putting it into your fantasy world is not innovative. Sticking a pre-existing culture and just saying, like, oh, this is a shift for medieval things is not innovative. This was why originally fantasy was exciting to a lot of people, was because it took what was mildly recognizable, but put it in a different lens, in a different context, and merged a ton of different stylistic lineages, and put them in this other context. And, like, Game of Thrones did this, Lord of the Rings did this, every fantasy series had done this to some extent, where they took a bunch of different, stylistic inspirations, like different types of embroidery, different ways to lay fabric, different types of fabric, utilizing the idea of like different geography and in like influencing where that lineage would be sourced from. So the more northern you went, the more closer to like Celtic or Viking it was. Southern became more Mediterranean. You know, it's like all of these things had real world links, but they were not like pure copies of real world things. And so if you're doing your fantasy culture, fantasy world building justice, you're not just transplanting something as you would with cultural appropriation. Ideally, you'd be shifting it and manipulating the concept to make sense in the context of your world. So in the instance of cultural appropriation, the reason why a lot of it happens is because there's a lack of understanding of what that symbol, that object, that piece of clothing, or that tradition meant to that original culture. Usually those things have an enhanced importance because of the impact it had, or kind of the role it plays in their culture, often more spiritual, extremely personal, or having a marked history. Those things, yes, you should be completely aware of. You should be understanding what you're taking out of a culture to transplant into another one. But to take something and make it mean just as much in a different culture, while also mixing it with other things to create a new kind of offset version of the same, maybe perhaps the same beliefs systems. So maybe they believe in a very naturalistic pagan kind of pantheon than a monolithic god type, I don't know what that's called. Maybe they have a very shamanistic culture that's based on stories and words and spoken language and how that affects people, as opposed to pure, hard science, perhaps. Taking elements of those cultures, transplanting them into a different, like, visual skin, that's not really a cultural appropriation thing. If you do your concepts justice and you do the whole process justice, you're not just going to run into issues where it's like, wow, you clearly just took that thing and just made it like a you know, and just stereotypical icon of something, right? If you understood what those symbols meant, you're not just going to transplant them into something else and try to pass it off as being, you know, something that can just be replicated for fun and whatnot. So it's like the idea of tattoos meaning something to a culture is not inherently stealing from a different society, but using the symbolism and the styles and the stories of the tattoos that the Maui people use to pretend to make a Maui character and not understand that those tattoos were made specifically for each person, made by someone with the you know, knowledge and years of expertise to craft those specific, very significant stories for them. That is a misuse of your research, a misuse of understanding what that thing meant. But the concept of tattoos being meaningful to a culture, being able to communicate things and through symbols, through the ways that it's produced, through the ways that it's provided for people, that is not, you know, something to worry about necessarily. I guess, in a very long-winded explanation. Favorite brushes? Do you have favorite brushes? Yes, I do. I've been sharing a lot of them with, or I have since been sharing some of them with people who are subbed to the Twitch channel. I sometimes send out little packages with a bunch of my currently used brushes. Although I will say I can't hand out any of the ones that are like were purchased from like a pack or anything, so they have to be ones that I've made myself. But yes, I have spent many years trying to find brushes that I enjoy using, and of the ones that I have found, I use them almost exclusively. How have I learned to choose designs? So that's kind of really a personal thing in terms of like my tastes. I think in large part it's just the fact that I've been, you know, like everyone else, looking at the art online, consuming all the different types of things that people do, and recognizing like, oh, this one made an impact on me a lot more than some other designs. I wonder why that is. I'll think about some of my favorite, you know, more iconic characters that I like, that I think have a really good sense of style, and I'll think about like, oh, maybe this says something about what I like in a character design. And that definitely changes with like the place I'm in my life, because of, you know, what I've been working on recently. I've been looking a lot at stylized stuff, and I've always kind of enjoyed stylization to a certain degree, but what kind of stylization was pretty up in the air. And I'm coming to terms with a lot of things in terms of like, what do I actually enjoy. Silhouette, good proportional shape design, a nice variety in details and in big, medium, and small shapes. All of these things kind of coalescing together to explain most of the reasons why I'll like certain designs over others. Not all. And in some cases, a good design to me might just be like, I like that for some reason. I don't know why, but it looks nice. And that'll be enough. So, I think just kind of time, in a way, experience and time, learning to see, and like learning design and what design, good design, quote unquote, means, and then also learning to recognize when you like something and it has like aspects to it that you see as stuff that are missing from your own work, things that you've noticed in other artists that you really like. Those elements are things that I think really start to help form what good design and good character design means to you. Oh, Peach, you want to leave? Peach! Unfortunately, there's no Peach cam, so she can't be on display for everyone else, but let me let you out. The local community in my ears more limited compared to entertainment design hotspots. I mean, people connections. Really shaking myself out of a year-long burnout isolation. I'm not the person to ask about networking and connections and stuff. I predominantly work on my own without really talking or interfacing with a lot of other people, if I don't have to, outside of work and stuff. And that's a character flaw of my own, because I would like to be interfacing with more artists, but I also, I'm a really, like, introverted person. So in a way I work best, and I'm doing my best work when I'm doing it, like, alone, thinking about it, and really, like, developing my own stuff. So, I am not someone who was ever really good at networking or going to those kinds of events or being that kind of person. So I can't really give you much advice in that, other than there are plenty of discords and communities run by other artists who are really interested in facilitating that kind of environment. There are also different events, like hashtag events even, or even actual events, where it is dedicated for people to kind of meet and interact with other people. At this point, a lot of those kinds of interactions happen, like, online through Discords and message groups and stuff like that. You could possibly see about, what was that one? Clubhouse? Do people still use Clubhouse? It's that one, like, podcasting-ish app where people can just, like, put on talks and, like, do industry events, but like through voice chat or something. I don't know. There are spaces online for that kind of thing. I do not often find myself in those spaces, though, so I cannot really help you. What have you been exposed to during your time away from streaming that caused a shift in your painting style? So I've had a lot to think about since I've been gone and working on Class 101 stuff, and so here's basically what would my life during the Class 101 development was relatively, it was kind of rough. And I would find myself awake at really odd hours in the morning, and that's where a lot of this kind of like weird introspection came about, is when I'd be editing at like 6 a.m. and just having the weirdest thoughts about like where I'm at, where I'm going, and I think having all those experiences and stuff kind of just developed into me having like a weird semi-epiphany, just like coming to terms with something that I've been feeling for a while. Which is, there is a difference between the work that I'm doing professionally, the work that I'm doing as a job and in a career, and the work that I end up wanting to do for myself. And what I want to do for myself is not necessarily easily defined, because it really just depends on whatever I want to do at that moment in time. And often I find myself falling into like a weird pocket of interest where I start being really intrigued in things that are the complete opposite of what I'm doing most typically. And since I've been doing a lot of stylized, very not really even semi-realistic work, my personal work has taken a little bit more of a classical turn. I've become more interested in painterly styles and a lot more textured work because I don't often get to do that when I am, you know, working at my job or doing commissions, any of that sort of stuff. And so things that I do in my free time are now a little bit more experimental than they used to be, because I have like a newfound interest in like experimentation, or at least an attempt at experimentation, with the work that I do for myself. So that's kind of why my more recent paintings that I've been not really sharing at all, that's why they've kind of looked the way that they have, is because somewhere along the line my brain was just like, you know what's actually more interesting now? Not anything on ArtStation, not anything by concept artists, not really production work, not really stylized stuff. Those things are okay, and I still look at them because I have to. But my brain has kind of been a lot more interested in other forms of art. And so I think in my personal work that has taken a little bit of a turn. How the fuck do you draw or talk while drawing? I would pass out. You know what? Same though. Dice, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Pale Hero, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. How's Peach? Have they been eating? Yes. In fact, Peach was 17 pounds when I adopted her, and she is now, drum roll please, 14 pounds. So she's lost a little bit of weight, and I'm very proud of her. You need tips on being more patient. I had to learn this when I was younger, which is why when you watch me draw, it's like watching a snail attempt to cross a freeway. I had to learn to draw like slower, but then also more methodically. And in a way, just trying to draw slower does kind of force you to detox yourself from the rush of being impatient. But it is definitely a bit of a psychological thing that you have to, a hurdle that you have to cross. Because the impatience kind of comes from at least for me, the impatience came from the fact that I wasn't really thinking about what I was drawing. I just kind of wanted to get to the end result, and the end result never looked very good, so then I was, like, frustrated about the whole process regardless. And so, you know, I kind of just started to make an effort to think a little bit more about what I was drawing, and try to make cognizant decisions about, or conscious decisions rather, about what I was putting down on paper, and that kind of extra process of having to validate my choices and be a little bit more aware of the decisions I was making, and kind of every time I drew something, I'd take a step back and I'd consider, like, okay, is this actually the shape that I want and the thing that I want? And obviously this kind of can take a really quick downturn into really unhealthy perfectionism, but you know, being impatient often stems, in my experience, just from a kind of, you don't really have a ton of things to think about, and so you're just trying to get it done. But if you're actually really in full control of what you're drawing, you have a lot of things to kind of make decisions about. You have a lot of things that you're thinking about at once. And that inherently, that, like, awareness that everything you do has to be deliberate. Everything that you draw should be drawn with some, like, you know, it's like you did take the time to consider, like, is that the right choice? Was that the right line to make? Is that the right angle? Is that the right style? Having a busy, active mind while you're drawing, I think, was the biggest change I had to make when I decided I was drawing a little too fast. And finding that balance of being aware but not a perfectionist is the main battle. Alfred, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Did I hear that Song of the Ancients played the open ceremony of the Olympics? The Olympics currently is triggering my, like, my secondhand embarrassment. So I've avoided any and all coverage of the Olympic thing, because I can't decide whether or not it's weird and cringy or cool and almost awe-inspiring. My brain doesn't know what to make of it, so it's just, it just hit the panic button, and instead I'm just in a state of, like, I can't look at this. Special, I've been feeding her diet food, diet kibble, basically. Have you ever felt trapped in an art style because that's what you're known for? Yes, and I would sincerely recommend people not put themselves in that state. I think people put a lot of emphasis on an art style, and it's really unwarranted. It's extremely overrated what people have made style out to be. I think there was a time in my life where I felt like I needed to have a style, to have a brand, to have an identity, because that's what all the other cool artists were doing, right? Like, you could recognize their art from a mile away. But that focus, that weird, really weird attention to, oh, is this, like, the style that I want? Like, oh, is this, you know, the very specific look that I want, as opposed to, is this the drawing I want to make? That difference, that slight variation in what was actually important to me, really ruined art for me for a while. Because I don't really care about style, and if you've ever looked at my stuff, you've noticed that I switch quite often. There's a big variety that happens because I'm always looking at new artists, always trying out new ways to draw, and subtle ways, because I don't know, it's just fun. And that freedom of not feeling restricted by a style, I think has done me a lot of good, because frankly, I don't get why we put so much of an emphasis on it. It doesn't really matter. Style is something that you grow into regardless of how much you struggle in your life, because it's just a result of all the different artists you've kind of liked and adored and idolized at some point of your life, and is also influenced by your current inspirations and your current goals. And so it's going to change regardless of what you do, so you might as well just kind of not force it to stay the same just because you're scared of not having an identity. Because there's always going to be something about your art that's recognizable regardless of what style you pick. And that's because your style is just an amalgamation of your very specific quirks and habits and, you know, just like I guess that's it. Like, just quirks and gimmicks that you specifically do, that make your art the way that it looks. And those things can occasionally transcend different actual attempts at style. So even if you do try and draw in a different method or medium, the way that I draw forearms and hands doesn't change significantly from style to style. I'm still the same person with the same understanding of basic fundamentals, and so the habits that I have when I'm drawing are not really going to change some of these aspects, and that is what people recognize me for, I assume. It's partially my line quality, but then if the line quality is different, the way that I draw is not necessarily going to be as different. And if the way that I draw is different, then perhaps my line quality is a little bit more recognizable, you know? So, all this stuff to say, I think style is overrated. I don't think you should be limited by your style. And if you feel like you are, then that might be a sign that you've allowed it to have more agency in your work than it really deserves. It's just a tool. It's just a way for you to communicate, and if you feel like there's another way that you would rather communicate through, that you should just go do it, regardless of what other people, you know, are insecure about, because there's quite a lot of people that can't stand the idea of not looking like finding a style, and I used to be that way too, until I realized it was kind of arbitrary. Sounds like art would be less fun if you had to think about everything before making a stroke. It could be, if that's how you're framing it. I think about it like, for me, I think at a higher level, art is about having ultimate control about what you're putting down, about the lines that you're making, about the thing that you're trying to communicate. When you are someone who is particularly skilled or very experienced in drawing, you are much more able to communicate exactly what you intend to communicate, and you have the tools to communicate those things. When I talk about being purposeful with your art, about making these tiny decisions, it's not like you're actually being like, okay, now this line, I'm gonna angle it this way at like 45 degrees, and then I'm going to go from thick to thin, and then in the next line, I'm gonna go at 19 degrees, you know, like, we're not doing that. What you're doing is like, I have a very specific shape in mind that I want to communicate, and your hand can then go and communicate those things. It's about being able to define for yourself, like, I want a very specific look and style to this type of drapery. I'm trying to achieve a very specific atmosphere with the technique of hatching. Those are decisions that you make on a micro level before you make those strokes, before you make that decision. And usually when people talk about, you know, like, oh, they make this look so easy, or, oh, it looks like they don't struggle at all when they're drawing or something like that. What you're noticing is that this person on a kind of macro level appear to just be seamlessly doing all these things, when on, like, in their head, they're probably in some way deciding, subconsciously or consciously, like, okay, yeah, so I know a very specific shape that's very pleasing to me, that I've drawn before, that I really like for fabric wrinkles and stuff like that, and I want to do that very specific, you know, formation of shapes. Or, oh, this pose, I think this would look better if the hand was just slightly more angled, so it had a little bit more variety. With strokes, it's like, oh, I think this line will look a little bit better if it had more weight to it, a little bit more flair, maybe a little bit more energy. Those are the things that you're really deciding. And while, yes, on a surface level, it does seem less fun, I think you'll really know, like, you'll really see mastery for what it is when you finally feel like you have full control over what you're drawing, over what you're putting on paper. And this isn't to, like, knock people that are all about, the happy accidents and the experimenting part of it. I think that's a perfectly valid way to approach art. But for me, when I draw very representational stuff, like, by the books, this is a person with clothes having a certain expression and, you know, whatever. I'm not experimenting, I'm trying to convey something very specific. And so, in that way, to me, being able to say, this is exactly what I want, this is exactly what I want to put on paper, this is the exact emotion, atmosphere, ambiance, feeling, style that I want, to be able to communicate that requires you to have all of these things defined. And so that's what I'm talking about with that. Is Gary still here?
Yes.
He's reported for duty. Thank you, Ray. Wondering what you would recommend to correctly calibrate monitors. I have no idea. How's your game, Gary?
Pretty good. I'm stuck, but it's okay. I'll find it eventually.
Is it dumb like that one Metroid game you showed me, where it was like the texture was the same, but you had to bomb this one area?
No. I got used to that part of it, of Samus Returns, but I just don't know where to go currently. Fusion is a very different game than the other ones, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Angel, how are you? How are you an introvert yet so articulate? It's a skill you learn. I've definitely had to learn how to speak like a person, and that took a while to learn. You know, it's like, I feel like I am almost like a robot that has to, or like an alien that has to learn how to communicate with normal society. So they just learned like, okay, when you're talking, this is how you project, this is how you end a sentence, this is how you do all these things. Then I just assemble these pieces together when I have to talk to someone. Same thing with like presenting, same thing with all this other stuff. At a baseline, I am completely socially inept, but I've had to learn all of these small individual skills just based on all of the stuff I've had to do in my life. And being able to talk and articulate stuff has been the biggest hurdle for me. And I feel like I've gotten slightly better at it than before. And my music stops in the most dramatic way. I think I've gotten better at it, but still definitely a work in progress. And it does not come easy. But if I can do it, you can too. If someone like me, who couldn't look waiters and waitresses in the eye and couldn't go to a cashier and couldn't talk to like people helping like in stores or whatever, and if you're someone like me where your voice would shake as soon as you talk to someone that was taller than you, you know, like if you were like me at any point, you can eventually grow and learn to talk in a much more confident way and not have like basically a panic attack in front of like 5 people, much less 30 or 50. It's all learned skill. I still kind of flub it sometimes. There are days where I wake up and I feel like I'm like disconnected from my body and I have to somehow navigate social circumstances and talking to coworkers and stuff while still feeling like holding onto my body with I'm a little balloon being held on by a string because I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day. Yeah. Social interaction's tough, but you can learn how to operate and get by, and no one will know. My music does turn off. I think it's because Discord, it's like, I detect voices. I'm gonna turn this app off or something. I think it does do that. Haza! How are you? Carter, hello! How, spell your secret for your voice not to shake? Not to cry so easy. So I cry really easy. Gary knows this.
Yes.
I'm a big crybaby. So I can't give you tips on how not to cry because oof, I need some of those myself. Oof. Oof. But how to not let your voice shake. Something I learned from public speaking class is that breathing actually does affect your voice quite a bit. And anyone who sings, anyone who does anything like that knows. But a way for you, if you are particularly nervous or kind of shy about speaking in public, is to learn how to breathe through your words. This is why I say a lot for this reason, is because I'm usually taking a breath. It's a way for me to pause the scenario, pause the talking, pause everything, so I can breathe for the first time in like minutes. And that's kind of allowed me to sound a little bit more confident in how I speak. Because I used to just like run out of breath all the time and it sounded like I was about to cry. And that would put people off a lot because they would just be worried, like, is she gonna burst into tears? Like, what's happening? So I started trying to, one, project. So if you've ever been to like a singing or speaking class, they'll talk about projection, where you try to visualize pushing your voice forward, outward into the room, as opposed to just like letting it sit in your throat or in your chest. It's not something that you really realize is a part of public speaking until you're up there on the stage and you're like, wow, it seems like I'm the only person who can hear me because I'm talking so quietly. So projection. breathing through your words, being able to take big breaths and using that breath as you're speaking to kind of push and smooth out all the little tremors in between your words helps a lot. It helps you sound more clear. It helps kind of add a rhythm to how you're speaking. And it also just kind of, again, helps you smooth out those tiny tremors that would make people suspicious, like, oh, are you, like, panicking? Having a panic attack? Why, yes, thank you, but, no, actually, I sound perfectly fine, because I'm breathing, and I'm having good airflow, and allowing the tones and the pitch of my voice to carry what I'm saying. All those things, and then also just kind of being able to think ahead of what you're saying. So sometimes when you're talking, especially if you're nervous, you struggle to think of words on the fly, or it really is really hard to think about what to say. And ways that I've kind of tried to circumvent that is sometimes I'll just talk to myself, and I'll try to think about just random topics, and I'll try to kind of talk in a way where it's almost like I'm presenting my opinion or my thoughts on it, and I'll practice sort of articulating thoughts in my head. And I'll sometimes, you know, if I'm go on a tangent, which I usually do, and I start rambling, and then I say something where I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good way to put it, I'll stop, I'll pause, and then I'll try to re-articulate it again, but with less words, less, you know, pauses, and I'll just practice doing that for a lot of different things, not even just art, but even just, like, normal human conversations, like, oh, how was your day? How have you been feeling lately? You know, I'd practice those things, because I know that in instances where I'm caught off guard, and Gary knows this, whenever we have to, like, order food or something, or a phone call, I have to, like, emotionally prepare. And he often has to call instead. But it's because I don't normally prepare for those instances of, like, oh, I need to, like, enunciate and properly, you know, convey words, and also memorize and order in my head. And then also, if they have to ask me for clarification, or if I have to, you know, qualify a statement, I don't know how to react in that situation, and it freaks me out. So, you know, I'm still working on it, but small things. Once you start building up a repertoire over the course of your life, as you get older, you become more accustomed to it. It's a lot easier to start speaking in ways that, you know, mask your real anxiety levels, and it makes it easier to talk as well. Was I scary to you when you met me? No, by that point, Vincent, I could talk to people taller than me, which is most people, by the way. Being 5'2" means that most people are taller than me, so that was not a problem that could persist, and I could, like just live. So I had to fix that one. So don't worry, you were not scary, because by that point, I had already kind of learned to conquer it. Do not ask me about driving. I can't drive.
She cannot.
I cannot. I've never been to cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't exactly know in what context you would go, but suffice to say, my mom did not believe I had anxiety or depression up until I was like 20. So no chance for me to go to therapy, and I haven't gone since either. I promise I'll finish this drawing at some point today. Don't laugh. Hey.
Hey.
Stop laughing.
You're doing your best.
I am.
You are. You're doing your best.
It was a rough start to this drawing and I still don't like it, but it's too late to go back now.
You've also been answering a lot of questions, so yeah, it's understandable.
Was that genuine or were you teasing?
No, it was genuine.
Okay. There's something about how you said, that's understandable. I was like, Yeah. It'd be nice if I could just have the question projected in front of my eyes. Because I've always answered questions and then like 20 more get asked and I have to like read through the chat to see what the next one is. I'm very, very bad at answering questions and in a timely manner. Any tricks for drawing a character's face correctly when you flip the canvas? I just flip the canvas before the face gets too wild. That's what I do. I flip the canvas quite a bit and then I leave no chance for it to look weird, basically. How are you doing, Gary? A lot of people have asked that recently.
I'm doing pretty good. Work has been real awesome. Starting on some personal projects again, and I'm playing Metroid, so pretty sick.
Mm-hmm. Gary's been getting into a bunch of old games. I think you're in your... It's kind of like I don't know. Is it appropriate to call them retro?
It's like a little retro kick. I'm starting to play old Pokemon games and going through the Metroid series.
Mm-hmm.
Currently playing Fusion. I have completed the other ones. I just need to beat Fusion and the Prime trilogy, which is very hard to come by because I don't know where my Wii U is.
Yes. Okay, Mungo, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub.
Just curing like mandrills.
The what? Mandrill? What's that?
That's a stupid question.
Oh, Paul's here?
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. Where? Oh, I see him. Any advice you can at least give for not knowing exactly where your life is going related to art? Want it to be in my life really bad. So I'd say don't pressure yourself too much about like knowing exactly what place art has in your life, and focus a little bit, and this is kind of like a coping mechanism, I guess. Focus more on, you know, what are you trying to get out of having art in your life? For me, art has always been kind of like both a comfort and a challenge, and in the better days, it's something that brings me a lot of joy. It's the only thing that can really put me into like a flow state where I'm like in the best, most zen form of myself as possible. And I think it's valuable to me that I have something in my life where I can do that, and I feel comfortable in my element, perfectly confident in what I can do. And that's why I've stuck with art for so long, is because it has that position in my life. Not very other many things do, and so that's why I've dedicated myself to making art my career, making the thing that I do all the time. But, you know, depending on what your goals are with art, what you're trying to accomplish, that might not be the same for you. And you might want to have limited exposure to art because you appreciate it, you like looking at it, you like engaging with artists, but you, on your own, don't really enjoy art nearly as much as you do enjoying what art can do, as in communicate a story, an idea, a concept. And there are a lot of artists, professional artists, that are like that, where they aren't so much artists in the fact that they like drawing. They're artists because art is the best way for them to communicate their ideas. The things that they do to support what they actually want to do, which is writing stories, communicating their ideas, communicating concepts. That means that their journey, their goals in life differ from mine. And what they are thinking about all the time, how they improve their art, what they have to work on a day-to-day basis changes because they have a different goal. And that's born from, you know, knowing exactly what they wanted out of drawing and being an artist. And so I'd say my best advice is just kind of focus on what is it that you actually want out of it, in terms of what about it makes you want to keep it in your life. And then figure out what can you do to enable that part of it, or work towards maintaining that part of it. For me, recently, I've discovered that there's nothing really out there that gives me more joy than being able to work on my own stuff. And not even just working on my own stuff alone. I think it's really easy for me to get distracted by, and if you can't tell, as I'm trying to draw while talking, it's really easy for me to get distracted by other stuff. And when I was in high school, when I was younger, being distracted by stuff was good. It allowed me to kind of keep things lighthearted. I was able to be a part of communities, and that's what I needed when I was younger. But my goals have since changed. My approach to art has since changed, and that means that how I approach art and what I need out of it has also shifted. And that was something I had to come to terms with more recently, in even just the past couple months. And so, you know, these things will change. They'll develop as you grow up and as you change in your priorities. But if you don't know where you're gonna go in the future, if you don't know how art fits into all of that, approach it from the basis of what do you want it to actually end up being? What do you want? How do you want it to exist in your life? What form of it best matches your goals as a person? How does it add to your life in any way? And go towards that dream, go towards that goal in whatever way fits your lifestyle the best. Is kind of the only thing I can really say. I'll be honest, Jeremy, it wasn't. I just kind of made it up. That fold was not from his knee the whole time. But maybe I should have let you thought that it was, so that it would be more powerful, but no, it was not. That would have been a Kim Jong-gi power move, but I don't think as far as he does. You have tips on coming up with cool poses and practicing foreshortening. So with poses and coming up with poses, the way that you approach that is often from having a visual library of poses you've drawn before or studied before that, you know, are relevant to what you're trying to convey. And the way that you build that is through figure drawing, is through doing studies of photos and photographs of models in different poses and different movements, watching videos, doing motion studies, all of that stuff. So if you're looking to do things with, you know, foreshortening and perspective, looking up photos with that in mind is probably what you're going to want to do. I do actually have a board on my Pinterest that's called Bodies in Perspective, and it's almost exclusively for foreshortened photographs of human models. So if you're interested, you can start there. But, you know, anything with dynamic lenses, dynamic perspective, even just watching people move around and doing any form of an action to change up the energy in their pose, all of those things are going to help you start to invent those on your own when you need them. Essentially. What am I looking forward to this week? This week is kind of ended, but my company is starting a D&D campaign, and so I'm excited to see when that will eventually start. And I have my D&D character already, and it's very cute. Yes, Carter. Everyone, see, okay, I told Gary when he did that one-off stream, I was like, don't say anything that you're not willing to be like you're not willing to have talked about for ages after. I told him, like, don't say anything that you're not gonna stand by. And you know, he hasn't streamed since then because streaming's not really his thing, and that's fair. But that means that there's no other thing that you guys say to him except the jokes that you guys made up.
No feet.
Gary's not even a feet guy. At least I don't think so. Are you?
What the fuck? Where did that come from? No.
I mean, no, exactly. I'm like, he's not even a feet person, but this is what they know you for.
Okay, well, in their defense, I don't think whether or not I'm the foot guy is actually in question at all. I don't think that's actually what's the important part.
Yes, well, there you go.
That's a bit defensive. Oh god. I just saw 3 messages at once that say my name and the word feet on it. Oh no-y.
Yeah, so maybe in the future, I don't know, if me, Gary, and a bunch of other people start playing other stuff like Minecraft or whatever, and he pops up on stream, we can invent a new joke, a new bit that people can carry on, but I'm sorry guys, I think the dream's dead. The dream's dead for this specific joke in particular.
Fucking dream is dead. Good though. Good meme.
Not good meme.
Good meme.
Not good meme. Stop it. Do not encourage. Do not engage.
See, Tojo agrees. It's a great meme.
Oh my god. I'm not saving your ass for the next joke that you invent. I'm not gonna field those questions. You do know that they've asked that every single stream since every single stream since I get the question of like, where's Gary? Is he gonna show feet? Like,
where's Gary and where are his feet?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I don't have any control over any of this.
Oh god.
Because not all of them get the message that it was never gonna happen.
This is turning chaotic very quickly.
I'm not even updated. I'm still looking at the next question I have to answer. What have you started? What have you done?
Kino, no!
Should we go to B as for drawing? Like, should I mainly think of practicing or just some images? Sometimes I struggle. I think if you haven't really gotten into the swing of drawing, your first priority should be having fun. You should be enjoying drawing. You should be looking forward to drawing. And if you don't, it's time to revisit why that is. That would be my advice. I'd say if you're going into the class, the one-on-one class, just take your time. Like, don't rush through the lessons. There is no deadline. There's nothing like that. Just take your time with it, really. Jimbo Box, hi! There's a lot of people in the chat that I haven't seen before. Gary, what have you done to my chat?
I literally... I don't know. I'm just playing Metroid. I don't know.
What have you done? This shouldn't have happened. Gary, repent. Repent, I tell you.
Oh.
Okay. Here's the next one. We're doing the second one, guys. We're making good pace. Good pace. Good pace. Good pace, I tell you. Y'all, he's never gonna do it, guys. You really gotta stop asking. Kino? I will not.
What the fuck is a Foot Clan?
Cease!
Dude, what the fuck is happening? Why is everyone saying that? I just read it in the chat.
What have you done? This was a place of learning.
What the f- I know.
What have you done?
Literally like 6 different people just... Don't let us get in our zone.
Oh my god, no, whatever this is, whatever's happening right now is not normal, okay? No, this is not normal. No, this is not how this normally goes, okay?
Wait, did somebody ask if this is normal?
Yes! Yes! Someone literally asked, like, also, is this Fu Clan thing normal here? I just joined from last vid. I swear to God. I swear to God. Can't seem to figure out when I stream. I stream whatever the fuck I want, but normally on Fridays. Oh my God. Kino, stop. Stop supporting this. Stop. Please!
It's true, I did actually invite people. I did DM people to come in here. Infiltration.
At this time, if it was at any other point in time, that would have been fine. But this is when you've chosen to invite them. Be like, hey, look, we're having a jolly old conversation over here. Do you want to come join?
Look, we need some new topics, okay?
I swear to God. Oh my God.
Dude.
No, I'm not angry at you. I think it's just ludicrous that this is what it's taken, or this is what the chat has become, after like a couple words from Gary.
Yeah.
Totally not angry at you, I promise. I'm perfectly fine. I'm just a little bit shocked that this is the state of affairs.
It's like you know, when you have like a pot full of like oily like noodle water, and then you put like 1 drop of dish soap in it, and then everything like spreads away. That's like what it feels like. Yeah, you know what? I think it is like a nice break. It's like you have philosophy, and then something else, and those are the two. And that's the topics.
I'm just gonna have to bring you back on. Are you the jester of this?
The court jester.
The court jester for this chat. Why is everyone typing soon? What's happening soon?
That's like so fucking scary. Like when I just see like 8 different versions of the same word. That's literally the scariest thing I've ever seen.
We're literally watching like mob mentality happen right now. Like there are people typing like soon? Soon? Question mark? I don't know what we're writing soon for. Oh my God. See what you do, Gary. First time in months you've been back and this is what happens. I think you were made to be a content creator.
You guys are gonna make Night go on another hiatus. I'm just kidding. I know that was. I didn't mean that.
No longer, content creator is no longer for me. Instead, Gary's will take my place.
No.
We're rebranding. We're rebranding. No. So that Gary can take his rightful final evolution.
See, oh no, here I have another analogy for you. You ready? See, this will always be the night stream because that's what actually people come for. But having this flavor is is nice sometimes. It's like the McRib. They can't have the McRib all year because then the McRib wouldn't be good. But when they do have the McRib, it's good.
I'll accept that. Because there's definitely like a portion of the chat that always asks where you are. So they've definitely been missing whatever you're offering them, which I guess is the quality of a McRib. How does it feel, Gary, to be as elusive as the McDonald's menu?
It's the brand, you know.
Mm-hmm.
McRib doesn't even exist. True.
It doesn't?
No, I don't. It's just elusive. Gary's McRib and Night is the rest of the menu. Yeah, I would say Night is just like, I mean, that's what you guys come for, right? So like just to intake the rest of the information. And then when you want your stomach to feel bad, you get the McRib. Oh God.
Oh no. I like.
Let's fucking go.
I find it really funny that Tojo joined in on this, especially because he's like, Mr. No caps, please.
He has to indulge every once in a while.
He does. This is him indulging.
Well-deserved indulgence.
Look at your influence, Gary. No, I
To
mean,
be fair, this is Paul's it. He was the one that. Yeah. He was the one that started it.
but I'm saying this is the energy that you have. Like, for the last, like, 2 hours, it's just basically been me answering questions, and then you speak for a little longer than, like, a couple seconds. And this is where we've ended up. I'd say that you have...
Hey now.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying that you have an energy that people like.
Well, hey now. It's because, you know, it wouldn't be possible if you know, people weren't down to reciprocate the energy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's the real blessing, I think, for this energy.
Blessing is an operative word, but okay.
Yeah, but when I get stolen valor. Wait, what? No, I said. Wait, what? Actually, you know what? That's true. I literally did like because technically, Jimbo was the one that did say Foot Clan, and then it also happened with Paul. So. Memes move quick, man.
See, the unfortunate thing about this is, like, I can't maintain this energy, so people are gonna come to the next stream and gonna be like, oh, is this the level we're on? It's like, I can't. It's only with Gary. If Gary's here, you guys can go all out, but I promise I'm not gonna be able to to sustain that myself.
Whew. it's all a group effort, I'd say.
Well, just know that I will not be helping. I cannot.
Throwing you a bone. I appreciate it. Yeah, see, what the sunburn says is true.
I appreciate that. Because I am very low energy in comparison to the height that's currently happening. Is this Yuzuku? It could be. Thank you, Angel. See, this is why I feel like we should do like more. We should do like goon game nights.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people here are actually really down for a different type of energy.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
But we have to find a game for that first.
Yeah, we could play Astroneer again.
Are you? Are you gonna play Astroneer?
It'd be fun.
Yeah, would it be?
Oh, wait. Oh, shit. I ordered Postmates like an hour ago, and it came like an hour ago.
Oh.
Oh, wait. No, it didn't. No, we're good. It says latest arrival by 7:55, and somehow I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
Wait, one second.
No, he's leaving me with you guys. There are currently 2 Pauls operating in this chat right now that are building this energy. There are 2 Pauls. There's two Pauls, I promise you guys. Have you eaten any new food recently? No, I have not tried anything new. Dude, can I out him? His real name is Paul, but his account does not have the name Paul. He's one of Gary's friends, and he's been spotted. This, I guess, yeah, is a guy from Ben 10. Favorite thing at McDonald's? Hash browns. Thank you, Kino. He went to go pick up food, I think. I hope he didn't get the habanero baga, because that would be unforgivable. How's my cat doing? She is doing pretty good. She's lost some weight, so my previously 17-pound cat is now 14 pounds, which is a little bit more acceptable for a cat. think we need to get a new mic stand or mic arm. It's been creaking quite a bit. So when you're looking at abs quickly. So they kind of interweave with each other. So the serratus interweaves with the muscles of this like upper torso. And then the space in between the actual like abdominis, rectus abdominis itself is like there's usually often some bit of I think it's not a tendon.
which was very good. Yeah, it was super solid.
Nice.
Yeah, tiger butter was super good. It was like melt in your mouth kind of chocolate. It was awesome. Hello, Jelly Belly.
You remember Bill's friend that we went to Lightbox with?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it took me a while when I forgot his username.
I'm really bad at remembering usernames.
But yeah. That's him.
Nice. Fridays are a good day to stream, I think, for you. It's pretty cool to unwind.
Yeah, I think so too. Sorry. Drawing pelvises sucks ass. So I'm just gonna try to reason my way through this. Essentially, pelvises are just big bowls, and you don't really have to worry about too much of their actual structure because it's arbitrary to have to draw them. But all you really have to remember is that it's a big bowl that carries stuff, and in order to help kind of facilitate a lot of the muscles in the from connecting muscles from the torso down, and then also for the legs to attach to, a lot of that happens in this region right here. So this region is where a lot of the torso muscles attach to, where a lot of the hip muscles attach to, and then down here is where a lot of the leg muscles attach to. So these muscles are particularly important to remember, and so knowing where the hallmarks of the pelvic bone is important to remember as well. And also, once you get into great trochanter, socket, ball jointed, stuff like that, then you have a lot more stuff to think about where, muscles have to go around this joint right here. It's complicated, unnecessarily so, and I say you don't really need to learn the pelvis in its entirety, but it's good to recognize it as a mass and a shape with form. Oh, it's 9. I kind of wanted to end it there because they said they wanted to do something for Paul's birthday. Are you going? Is it actually happening? I forget what is happening.
I mean, Liam is in the other call, so I think it's happening, but I'm not entirely sure what is going on.
Okay, well, just to...
I can scout it out and then
yeah, let me know.
If you want. Yeah, I can go first, and then you can just chill with the people here. And,
yeah. Well, since I did say I was gonna stop around 9, I'll just switch to let's change that. This, and then we can just talk for a little bit. I'll answer some of the last questions, but I'll probably stop drawing for now, just so that I can catch up on some stuff that people have been asking me. Couple. Can Peach talk now? I wish Peach could talk. Maybe she'll tell me why she doesn't want me to pick her up or hug her. If I want to be a character concept artist, should I only focus on things related to characters or do environment and other stuff too? Being a being an artist with multiple different skill sets is really helpful, especially in cases where you are applying to a place that doesn't have a bunch of people already hired to do all that other stuff. So a good example is actually where me and Gary work. Gary works for a company that does have people specializing in certain things, and so he's able to work on a team that focuses primarily on one specific aspect, which is character concept. For me, I work at a smaller company that only has basically me as the 2D artist and concept artist. So I have to be able to kind of morph to whatever they need me to do at the time. And it can be fun to have a bunch of different skills, and that's your choice, whether or not you want to go into being a generalist type artist where you can go into environments, you can do illustration, you can do prop design, you're just familiar with all of these things, and you have one thing that you do particularly well. Or you can be a specialist and you can say, hey, I'm going to just do characters, and I'm going to do characters the best that I can possibly do them. And so when people go to you, they know that you specifically offer this thing, and if that's what they want, they'll have faith that you'll be able to deliver that to the best of your ability. I'd say if you want to have a wider variety of places that you can possibly work at, that is basically like ranging in terms of size. So the smaller the company, the more likely they'll be asking you to do a variety of things, or depending on company culture, they might only want a concept artist who can do multiple things. But there are plenty of places that want specialists. So I'd say do what makes you the most excited about working. If you are not at all interested in environments, not at all interested in props or anything like that, having the skills on the side is fun to kind of learn, but make your portfolio entirely character focused if that's what you're going to do. If you're applying to a job and there's a specific thing that you want to be working on, whether that be characters or environments, make sure your portfolio is geared to that. If you're doing a character portfolio, don't put in environments. If you're doing an illustration portfolio, don't put in concepts, you know. Have that all on a social media site or on your website or something like that, so that if the person recruiting you or any other people on the team wants to look further into all the other stuff that you do, they'll look for those links in specific. But as far as developing skills for potential jobs in the future, I'd say make that choice for yourself, whether or not you want to be a multifaceted person, if that matters to you, if you want to increase your chances of fulfilling the needs of a specific studio. Some studios prefer to have specialists because they want to have experts on their team, and some people or some studios and companies want multifaceted people who can fulfill any role because that makes them more secure in you know, it's a little bit more efficient and economical for them to be paying one person to do multiple jobs as opposed to be paying 5 people to do one job in particular. So make that choice for yourself. I am predominantly a character artist, and people who look at my portfolio can tell that. But for a while I was only doing illustration, and so people have seen me do environment, props, painting, all that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until I actually put character concept related things into my portfolio that I was able to start applying for character design, character concept jobs. So keep that in mind. Hoping to get a master's with a major in game art. What schools would you recommend? I really don't know about master's programs, like postgraduate programs. I'd say game art is kind of a very specific major. It's not something that a lot of schools, well, actually no, I'd say currently a lot of schools are developing majors for that, especially art schools. And the one that I went to, Laguna College of Art and Design, is a relatively good one, as well as apparently, like, Art Center has a really good entertainment design major. I am not 100% sure about other schools. There could potentially be more out there that I just don't know about. I'd say, you know, there's a big difference in game-related majors where some of them are game-focused, some of them are design-focused, and some of them are concept-focused. So Laguna College of Art and Design and Entertainment Design at Art Center are both design-focused. Or, sorry, both design and concept-focused. So, LCAD has a little bit more of a focus on 2D concept, so a lot more sketching and stuff like that. Art Center has a bigger focus on technical mastery, so they have you doing a lot of stuff, including environments and prop design on top of characters. And, you know, every other program like SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, had a, I think, game art-esque major, but I think I don't know, from what I remember, it was framed kind of more like game development stuff as opposed to just concept, so I'm not really sure how that is now. I think it's better, but I can't be sure, so I don't really know about masters. But a lot of schools nowadays do have undergraduate programs related to game art. If you're looking to go into a very specific game art course, doesn't matter if it's an actual accredited program, I would say you'd be much better off going into the unaccredited art programs like online schools, Brainstorm, Inland, Schoolism, stuff like that, because I don't know if game art's offered as a master's, really, but yeah. Did I ever get that new PC that the company was offering? Yes, I did. Actually, funny story, the first PC that they gave me, ended up being kind of a bust. It shut down randomly, basically. And that kind of sucked. And we could not figure out how or why it was doing that. And it just kept shutting down randomly and I was losing work. So they just got me a new one. New one's been working great. It's been lovely. I get why people have nice computer rigs. It's really nice. When I play Minecraft, I can play it with Optifine on and it doesn't chug at like 1 frame per second. It's pretty excellent. So yes, I did set up the PC finally and it has been good. TL, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 19 months. So close. So close. Well, actually, no, it's over a year. Almost 20 months. It's crazy. Gary's also an artist. Yes, he works as a character concept artist as well, including me. Do you do any hand exercises to avoid or relieve any cramps or pain? The classic stretching your hand back and forth, you know? Being able to stretch your elbows. There's a lot of stuff online about it. I tend to massage my hand, so I'll massage the palm, I'll massage the every like bit of muscle, I'll stretch them out, I'll do the tendon stretching as well, where you like pull your hand, you like put your palm of your other hand over the fingers and you pull back towards your shoulder as you're like putting pressure so that you can like stretch your wrist a little bit. I also massage my elbows because that's been hurting a lot more often than my wrist. And in cases where my wrist really hurts, I'll wear a brace to keep it straight for a really long time. Would you know how come art schools in the US are expensive? Well, not just art schools. College in the US is relatively expensive. A lot of schools are, you know, I really can't speak for why they're expensive. I just know that they are. And I don't exactly know the details of why that is, but it is definitely not cheap. And most schools will also, on top of not being cheap, increase in price every year. So I remember when I first learned about Laguna College of Art and Design, which is the school I ultimately went to, I knew about it for a really long time prior to going there. And I remember when I first found it, the tuition was only $16,000 per year. And then by the time I actually went, it was like $30,000 a year, give or take. Or maybe it was like $20,000, not $16,000. But anyways, yeah, it did increase in price. Same with every other school I've ever been to. I can't say why it's expensive, it just is. Which is why having online resources be available now is a really great thing. Because now it's a lot more affordable to get lessons from teachers who are actually working in the industry. You don't have to go to an educational facility to do so. But yeah, it's pretty pricey. How did you practice storyboarding? I saw a lot of really beautiful storyboards you showed on your website. So with storyboarding, you kind of want to get into other skill sets like composition, learning how to tell stories through composition, and it's a lot of like film knowledge. I don't have that knowledge, but I do know what compositions I liked in films. I knew the basics of composition, like balancing and composition, depth, and stuff like that. And so I took the very foundational aspects of composing a piece, and also some of the filmmaking aspects of how do you build atmosphere, and how do you juxtapose and tell metaphors and stories through the way that you compile a piece of key art or a screenshot. And I just tried to combine all those together. I'd say if you got an actual storyboard artist to look at it, or even a key artist to look at it, they'd probably be like, this is a pretty bad comp, for this scene. But that's kind of how, that was my first attempt at a storyboard, so it's kind of my foray into that stuff. So I'd say if you're interested in storyboarding, go and actually look up how people, and it depends on the industry too. Storyboarding for animation is different from storyboarding for film and everything else. But, combining a bunch of different skills, like just various skills that I have that are kind of floating, and tying them together is a big part of anything, really. If you're going into industry stuff, you're going to be learning a bunch of different skill sets, and knowing how to tie those things together is actually what's going to help you the most, being able to adapt to new things. So when I got that assignment, I didn't know how to storyboard, but I knew how to, tell design and shapes, and I knew how to sort of compile a composition, and I could learn how to study film screenshots and learn what message they could convey through the way that they oriented stuff. Pulling all these different skills together and putting it into this assignment, that's what I had to do. How is LCAD, and which of their courses would you recommend for a guy who is applying for undergrad? So depends on what major you're going into, right? I think there are a lot of people who would have some opinions about LCAD, as they do for every art school, and I thought that the cast of teachers I had at LCAD for game art was really great. We had a lot of really good artists who were teaching there, and so my only experience really is with game art, but I've heard good things about the entertainment design major that's kind of an offshoot of both game art and illustration. They're relatively new, but they seem to have some interesting classes that are happening. I think LCAD is known primarily for their fine arts majors, but those are the only two I'm really familiar with. Have you ever done concept art for animation projects, and do you have any advice for that? I haven't, but there are plenty of people on Twitter and Instagram that have, so I'd recommend talking to them instead. Bye, Kino. Okay, cool. Well, so, if any more questions that anyone might have for me, because otherwise, I might call it here, and, I will try to find some time before Friday next week to stream again, because I would like to pick up the pace with these charity commissions, because I do want to do another charity commission or charity thing this December, because I want to do it every holiday, but I need to finish this first, so gotta pick up the pace on this. I'm gonna try my best, but if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can definitely call it here. Have I been playing any games? Oh yes, I've been playing the new Nier Replicant game. I've been playing the Yakuza games. I've been playing Judgment, which is another game that the Yakuza team made. I've been playing Persona 5 Royal. I've been playing Spiritfarer, Hades. I've been playing a lot of games, but like only for like maybe 20 minutes at a time. But yes, I've been enjoying a lot of games. And it's been fun having like different experiences. But am I ever gonna finish them? I have no idea. But yes, thank you everyone so much for coming to this kind of back from hiatus stream. You guys have been really lovely, and I miss you guys so much. Am I going to stream them? Only if people want me to stream them. Otherwise, I'm just going to do art. But yeah, no, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for sticking around, being so nice to me after coming back for a really long time. I am going to try and stream a little bit more often because I've started to take on less work so I can focus on my actual work, and I would really love to be back to streaming, even in a more casual sense. Like, I don't think I'd ever do, like, the super strict every day or every, like, you know, whatever, but, shorter streams but more often is kind of something I'd be interested in doing, so I'll let you know, what happens with that. You guys will be the first to know. But, yeah, it seems like everyone's pretty good on stuff. So yes, I will end the stream here. Thank you everyone so much. I love you guys so very much. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys next week, probably, hopefully. And until then, stay safe, stay hydrated, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
Bye everybody.
Yay!